Hello and happy Pride Month, everybody. It's Jenny here from Night Ceremonies, and I'm hopping on today to continue my special feature, Jenny Chats 2, my series of interviews with really interesting people with things to say, people that inspire me. So today it's a rather special interview with a very, very special lady, tying in with Pride Month nicely. This lady is a Welsh actress. She's star of TV, theatre and film. She is an HIV and AIDS campaigner and activist, and the inspiration behind the award-winning hit TV series, It's a Sin. It is, of course, the wonderful Jill Nalder. So welcome, Jill. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Yes, I am very well. I'm very yeah, pleased with the sunshine, pleased with the
Yeah.
just come back from my holidays, and that was it was fantastic actually. We went up to the north of Scotland, right
Yeah.
up to the Isle of Skye, but we didn't see much sunshine. I looked at the weather forecast and it said beautiful sunshine, and every day we looked at sky it said rain.
Yeah.
So, but it was fantastic. It was wonderful to see.
Oh, amazing,
Beautiful trip.
amazing. Yeah, I was going to ask about your trip because I think
Yeah.
you're a very busy lady. So I think it's quite nice for you to be able to have some time away. Did you manage to get a break, or was there some
Well,
work
do you know
involved?
what? Even in spite of it, you're still online, aren't you? Everybody does the same thing.
Yeah,
So you still have online, you still have emails. But
yeah,
after all of us being in lockdown, I think it was just the change of scene that was so
yeah,
marvelous, because
yeah,
everybody's, we've all done our own areas. We've all walked around so much in our own areas, and you do find things. But it was quite magical to be somewhere different for me, and I love traveling. So
yeah. And
it
I
was
don't think it
fantastic.
matters so much what the weather's like, really. I think if you're
No,
with nice people, which you seem to be, and
exactly. We
have
were
a great
absolutely
time.
friends. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, obviously, we're going to be talking about the fantastic work that you do in terms of campaigning and awareness and things like that and fundraising. But I'm going to jump straight in with the topic that you probably talked about until you're blue in the face,
Oh
but
no, don't mind at all.
we're going to go there. And of course, you were the inspiration for the, well, now award-winning hit TV show,
Amazing.
It's a Sin.
Amazing.
And I mean, it's talked about a lot, but you were the inspiration, weren't you, for this?
Seemingly I was, yeah.
Yes, and in fact, you were quite the inspiration for me. So, do
Oh,
you want to tell us a little bit how did that feel? I mean, do you feel like having that part of your life portrayed in some way, did it feel intrusive, or were you pleased that the exposure sort of was there for you?
tell you what, now it does feel, it just feels strange because you don't think of anything at the time.
Yeah.
And then you don't even think, because of course I know Russell, and
Yes.
I've known Russell since we were teenagers,
Mm.
and I know, his writing and everything, but you're not prepared for the influence that he has.
Yeah.
Was people so much love what he writes, and it wasn't as if I didn't know that. I did, but I didn't have any idea that It's a Sin was going to have the effect it's had
Yeah.
on people, especially on young people who didn't seem to really realize what happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then of course the little character of Jill, which I you never think anything's going to make what you do is you can't believe that anything that you've done in your life is going to affect people. It just is such a weird thing. So
I
it
know.
took me completely by surprise, even though I know that Russell is brilliant, and I knew that the whole AIDS thing would have some repercussions, but we were also prepared for quite bad repercussions in a way. People might say horrible things about it, or because there'd been so much stigma at the time
Mm.
that you don't really know how people are going to take that. But the outpouring, and even Russell has said this himself, the outpouring of love and positive feedback that he has been more than he's had for anything he's ever done. So
Yeah.
he's been amazed by it. So of course I'm amazed because I was just a little part
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say a little part. I mean, I think actually you were quite instrumental, really. You were the sort of crux of the story. I guess you provided that sort of background for him to base the stories on. And actually, you say he is incredible because how he brought that whole thing to life. I mean, it was like a roller coaster. I found it everything from inspirational to emotional, harrowing at times.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, I got quite sort of angry and frustrated and felt quite helpless that all this had happened and there was nothing I could do about it, because I'm just watching
Amazing.
now and actually quite ignorant for with regards what had happened.
Yeah.
So I think actually it was a really good thing that it did bring it to the forefront, because for people like myself that really didn't have any involvement in that
Yeah.
time, it was a real eye-opener. And like I say, you inspired me to actually then go on and make donations and still educate myself about it.
I think it's fantastic, and I think that's. I think what Russell did was capture
Yeah.
something I suppose quite unusual, because if
Yes.
you've ever seen things about AIDS or HIV in the past, I suppose it's just about maybe a couple, or
Yeah.
somebody gets diagnosed and it's their journey, their illness. But I suppose just making it, what he did was capture, and he lived through it as well. I mean, he knew
Yeah.
our friends, my friends, he knew those people. So I suppose he captured like a group of just young people, which
Yeah.
is what we were doing, having fun, all hopes for the future.
Yeah.
And it touched people really. And
Yeah. I mean, it was a real peek behind the curtain, wasn't it? And actually quite challenging to watch at times,
yeah,
because it was quite harrowing and very emotional. And to think that actually this was a true true story. It's a
yeah, but
situation that
that
happened.
is that is, I think, what amazed people. And each and every one of those little things that happened in
Yes.
it were, even if it was nothing to do with, say, my little story or my part in the
Yes.
story,
Yeah.
like the two boys, when the Portuguese guy and his boyfriend,
Yeah.
they played that scene so beautifully, and it was just one scene, but it was so powerful because
Yeah.
people did just disappear, and that was very, very true in all kinds of
Yeah.
relationships, and relationships weren't respected as
No.
well, which is a hard thing.
Well,
You know,
that's it. I mean, it wasn't just the fear of the disease, it was the stigma attached to being gay, being part of that LGBTQ
yeah,
community. So
definitely.
just by mentioning that meant that you were part of the community and would bring all sorts of shame, and which is a real shame in itself. But I mean, I found that Keely Hall's character, Valerie, was a very interesting one. I wanted to sort of hate her as I was as I was watching it, but I can, although it's unforgivable that people felt like that, it
Yeah.
is kind of understandable because of the lack of information. And
And she loved him. She loved her son, and he
yes.
loved his
Yeah.
mum. And so it was that horrible, which I did experience in
Yes.
a few
Yeah.
cases. They just the love between them hasn't got time to, because of how it happened, and then you tell
Yeah.
somebody that you had AIDS, full blown AIDS, when it was too
Yeah.
late to repair the rifts, or to make the new relationship with somebody. It was because it all happened so quickly then, because people, once
Yeah.
they were very ill
Yeah.
at that time, they did die
Yeah.
quite quickly, to be fair.
Yeah, there were some real tender moments, and like you say, there's a real shone the light on those relationships and how difficult it must have been. And as a mum, I mean, I can't imagine that whole scenario. I like
No.
to think, I mean, I know I would be totally different, but
Yeah,
it was just a nice insight into how it was, and just trying to get your head into that whole situation. It was just,
it's that
yeah, really
feeling.
emotional.
Yeah, it's that horrible feeling of shame that sometimes parents had,
Yeah.
that older people had, that they can't tell the truth, and they
Yes.
just, they want. Sometimes I think people went home and they were looked after by a parent, but
Yes.
they couldn't tell their neighbours or their extended family. It was all kept a
Yeah.
secret. And only very recently did a friend of mine who died, his
Yeah.
brother called me, and he's only now told his own children. So he's waited all these years,
Yeah.
25, 30 years, to say what their uncle died of. And he said that, and he's actually sort of come out that
Yeah.
about what happened to our friend, my very good
Yeah.
friend, and to their uncle,
Yeah.
because he didn't feel shame himself. He was supportive. Derek, his name was, and he was supportive of Derek at the time, but
Yeah.
the rest of the family, so they just said cancer, which is what so many people said.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
really had cancer. He had all
Well, I
sorts.
think it's, in a way, it's good that he has managed to now and
Yeah,
explain, because I like to think that nowadays we are a lot more accepting and
yeah,
understanding. And actually, it's one of the things as a mum I do a lot with my girls. I actually talk a lot about the things
yeah,
that I'm involved with,
yeah.
because I think the more it becomes a normal part of their
Normal,
life,
exactly.
it's it. sets the scene for the future, and they become more aware and accepting going
Exactly. It's
forward.
the
So
normalizing of it that
it
that makes
is,
all the
yeah,
difference. And if you do it, I don't have children myself, but you know, friends, children, or whatever, if you make it normal from the word go, they accept it. They accept
yeah,
everything until they can form opinions of their own, which you,
yeah,
I suppose, you may or may not agree with. But
yeah. Well, that's it.
but you set the foundations then, and that's what I
That's
think our
yeah.
generation of young boys did not have the foundation set. The
No,
foundation was steeped in secrecy before HIV.
yeah.
Not, you know, not people still had good relationships sometimes with their parents, but they still had the secret.
Absolutely. Well, going back to the storyline, obviously, this rings true in real life, as it were. But you were there was the complete lack of information that
Yeah.
became a huge weight on top of everybody. You know, there was just it felt like you were it was crippling almost. You were desperate to find out more about it, but there just wasn't the resources available. How did you come to find out about these things? Because you made it a bit of a mission, didn't you? To
I made a mission, and that's genuinely true. You know, I did try to find out lots of information, and eventually I volunteered at the Westminster Hospital because I thought, well, that's a very good way
yeah,
to, you know, find out. And you gradually heard that people there
yeah.
were AIDS patients, and that you could volunteer to help. Really, you were just a visitor, but you would take
Yes.
tea or something into a room and chat to somebody. And I thought, well, if you're on the front line, then you're going to find out the actual
Yeah.
truth about how things are spread. Or, you
Yeah.
know, we did know, but it was always confusing. You know,
Yeah.
like, you know how COVID is? It's confusing sometimes. You think, is 2 meters enough? Is, you know,
Yeah.
you be 1 meter? Can you hug? Can't you hug? You know,
Mm,
you know the big stuff. You know that you can't, if you have COVID, you can't cough into someone's face,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and you would know that if you were, you know, you had full blown AIDS, you would be an unsafe sexual partner unless you took
Mm,
precautions. But you didn't know about the all the permutations of the illness, or whether you could, you know, people used to wonder whether it was in your tears.
yeah.
You could get it from kissing. Was it, you have to be properly kissing, or can you get it from a peck, or
Yeah.
someone's cut their hand, or all that? Can you give CPR? Can you give mouth to mouth? You know, people
Yeah.
giving blood, a whole plethora of mystery
Yeah.
around it.
Well, I think it's great that we're talking about this today because obviously we have all, as globally, just been through this or still going through the pandemic, and there's been an element of that, isn't there? You know, like you say, we can all relate to it a little bit,
I
although
think that helped.
I think it has helped people kind of think, oh, actually, that must have been terrifying, you know, not just the lack of information, how scared they were and how alone. And actually, one of the things, I'm going to make you blush now probably, but one of the things that really inspired me about you is that typically people will turn away, walk away from danger or tricky situations, but you actually ran towards it. You immersed yourself. You wanted to help, and to me, that's the true definition of a hero.
Oh,
It's very inspirational, and
oh.
no, and I think not to be undersold what you did and what you continue to do. So, you know, how does that feel? Are you kind of because I know your fundraising work's kind of continued, isn't it?
A lot of praise comes at me for that sort of stuff
Yeah,
now, and but it doesn't feel like, at the time it didn't feel like anything other than just helping the people that I was
mm,
part and parcel of my life. You know, that was,
yeah,
in fact, it was my life. You know,
yeah,
the my gay friends were my family,
yeah.
still are in many cases. And you know, it didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm going into
Into
danger. It
it.
just feels like people,
Yes,
it just felt like, what it felt like was that other people, they don't really know. So I'm okay. I'm
yeah,
doing this, but I did this because other people are ignorant of the
yeah,
truth. We're okay, you know, we can do
yeah.
this, we can help. And yes, I don't say like it was a lot of hospital visits and a lot of horrible things, but the actual fear that people seem to have, I used to think, oh, you're being, you know, you're not going to get it holding someone's hand.
Yeah. No,
Being crazy now.
I think maybe today the fear and the yeah, the ignorance perhaps around AIDS has disappeared slightly, and not because I guess things have improved because of medication, but I do feel a
Yeah.
little bit like it's been swept under the carpet a little bit because things have moved on, but
Yes,
it's still very much an issue, isn't it? Which is why the fundraising and the
yes.
campaigning continues. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, how we can help, and what does that actually help? What does it go towards? What?
I think what it is now, of course, there's still ignorance in this country about how much testing, get tested. The information is there, and
Yeah.
you can, in this country, lead a completely full and normal life
Yes.
being HIV positive. So you don't have to have that horrible panic that it is a
Mm.
death sentence. That makes a massive difference, obviously. But around the rest of the world, it's not the case.
Mm.
It's it's all over, every country, specifically South Africa and a lot of, well, sub-Saharan Africa as a whole, and a lot of other countries in the world where sexuality is still a
Yeah.
huge taboo, it's illegal, and there is the stigma which is carried. So,
Mm.
and there are millions and millions of people with HIV not getting the correct treatment regimes, and they are complicated. The
Yeah.
treatment for us here, you can take a tablet. It's relatively simple,
Mm.
but you have to make people understand what you're doing to help your immune system, good diet, all that kind of stuff that is so difficult for developing countries. And so that's where fundraising would tend to veer towards. Although the Terence Higgins Trust is still a charity, it still needs money, it provides vital information. I mean, the LAR, I didn't know, I wore my Pride t shirt, but I
Yay!
wore my LAR t shirt. And that LAR t shirt literally has raised thousands for the Terence Higgins Trust.
I know. I mean, I bought the bag. I've got my nice one, Jill bag,
Oh my God.
which I literally.
Now look, I'm blushing.
I know. I've got my La bag, and I've got badges stuck all over it. So I take it out with me shopping. So there we go.
That laughing, which was just such a silly little thing that we used to do on the youth theatre, is suddenly, but that's Russell's brilliance, because I thought, when he was writing that, I thought, is anybody going to get that laughing?
Yeah.
We used to go, la, and but all of a sudden people really got it and loved it. And so that's so amazing.
Because it's all about moments, isn't it? And that was just something that you did, and actually people can relate to that, and it has stuck, hasn't it? It's been a real sort of trademark, isn't it?
But that's Russell, you see. He's
Yeah.
got a little sixth sense on like that, because I thought, well, everyone gonna get that? I don't know, but completely wrong. They loved it.
Oh, well, that's amazing. But I guess the message as well for you, which is really important, is that those men, those boys, the brave people at that time are not forgotten. And so
No,
it's not so much just fundraising, it's keeping that awareness going, isn't it? And actually thinking, they are to be remembered. What they went through was horrendous. Yeah, and I think it's all of our responsibility really to continue educating ourselves and helping where we can, actually, I think. And
that's so nice, really, because I think that they did, you know, they they did.
yeah.
I don't even quite like to dwell on it too much sometimes, but they did
Yeah.
suffer so appallingly with
Mm.
the actual illness,
Yeah.
and to feel shame on top of that. It was horrible, and really they were guinea pigs. They were testing all these drugs that people
Yeah.
take so readily now, and then a drug works, but you get it in a bigger dose and it makes you ill for days, and so all that balance of treatments and
Yeah.
the triple combination that's available now was not available. So everyone was having a big dose of AZT, and that was making people ill. And then that was complaints and demonstrations about the drug companies test. So
Yeah.
it was a real, I suppose, 15 years that it was a big part of our lives, and 20 years if you count the people in San Francisco and New York who had no chance. They
No.
didn't even know what they had, which is just so frightening.
I mean, just hearing that length of time that it's taken to kind of reach a point where
Yeah,
people can be helped, and it's a more straightforward process, perhaps. It's just,
incredible, really.
I can't even comprehend that. I mean, that's
Oh,
just,
I know, and they did it with such a, everyone was so young,
yeah.
and then so I suppose, a first friend that we lost in college, he was probably 24 when he was diagnosed. He's just
Yeah.
so young. You don't even think how, you don't realize until you're old, like I am now, how
You're not
young
old.
they were, or how young we were. You
Yeah.
don't, you never think of yourself as young. You just think of yourself as what you're living, what you're living with. And then of course we had in our heads that of course people, our parents' generation and our grandparents, they'd had the wars. So
Yeah.
what are we grumbling about? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
all
I
that to
think
do.
it must have been extra hard. I mean, it was it was portrayed as a very hedonistic sort of time anyway, wasn't it? The fun that people are having, and actually to have a bit of a stop on that and a bit of a reality check that there's this horrible, horrible thing that was happening to
And it was the
people.
most weird thing as well, because I think like as women, we've always had to consider sex.
Yes.
Because sex always has a consequence. I'm not saying it doesn't have, sexual health
Yeah. Yeah.
consequences, but the very thing of pregnancy means that from your little girl, you are taught to
Yeah.
consider sex. Whereas for men,
Mm.
they might never had to consider it in the same way. And for gay men who had relative new freedom,
Yeah.
suddenly have something way worse than getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Suddenly they had a full onslaught of
Yeah.
this is going to kill you, what you want to do is going to kill you. So it is a terrible, like, it was seen as in the newspapers that sometimes it was seen like this is the punishment you're getting, this is what
Yeah.
you're getting. And so people that were already a bit guilty carried that guilt as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The negativity must have just been a huge burden,
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about we talked a bit about the fundraising and how it will help and still helps, but you are part of West End Cares, aren't you?
Yeah, and that was how we loved it actually. We set it up, and certainly not just me again. It was a group of us that set it up. But I was the first chairman of it. I think they wanted to respect me because I was a woman. I don't know. But I ended up being voted the first chairman, and we set up, but we linked it with a charity that was already in existence called Crusade.
Mhm.
And they had done an event and they called it West End Cares. So we, as the West End theatres, took the name West End Cares with their blessing and fundraised under that banner,
Yeah.
then gave them the money, and they distributed with what they had was the hardship fund and some towards research and stuff. So we really felt like we were helping, we were doing something,
Yeah.
which makes you feel better
Yeah.
about stuff when you think I'm progressing, making this
Yeah.
to do something to help the disease and get a cure. And then it became Theatre Mad. It set up as a charity in itself because Crusade stopped.
Yeah.
The branch, David Penbury, a friend of mine, David Penbury, he took over as the chairman and he ran it for many years as the chairman of
Mm.
Theatre Mad. And right up until these last couple of weeks, until after lockdown, it's been fundraising. So
Right.
it's made millions. There's no
Yeah.
doubt about that. It's made millions, and now I think we were talking because when they had to close it. Now I think if we do an event, we will do an event as a West End Cares or a West End cast or a bunch of
Mm.
performers, and we will maybe send it to a charity of our choice, or something like, for instance, I'm a patron of the Sussex Beacon now,
Yes, I
so
see.
I'm hoping that we would be able to do something to give them some money, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
to help some of the sort of maybe smaller,
more
lesser
charities, it'll take
charities.
on a different, it'll
Yeah.
now moving forward out of lockdown, I hope, take on a different form.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So, I mean, I will post, obviously, with this interview, details of how people can support all of your efforts as well.
Yeah,
So,
I think the
um,
Sussex Beacon is nice because
yeah,
that's something that is going to be close to my heart, and
yeah,
Pride, and Terence Higgins Trust. Wherever you choose, you
yeah,
can give.
you can help.
What Britain has, I think, which is so amazing, is so many different charities. People
Yeah,
setting up charities for things all over the place. So
yeah,
there'll always be someone we can help. That's for sure.
absolutely. Well, I know Elton John's obviously a big patron, isn't he? He's a huge figure associated with fundraising for
Yeah.
HIV/AIDS charities. Um, And I know that you sing and you've actually sung at weddings, haven't you? Is there any plans to bring out a single with Elton?
There's no plans to bring out a single with Elton, unfortunately, but Ollie did, of course, didn't he? Ollie's
He
done.
did. I thought you might want to follow in his
No
footsteps.
one's going to top that, are they? I mean, he's over the moon about it, and he's also got a lovely recording, Ollie, of "It's a Sin," which is just him at the piano before the whole thing kicked off with Elton John.
Yeah,
His voice is so beautiful. So,
I
so
know.
we have a plan with the company I sing with, which is called West Enders. We're trying to get now to do release a recording of One Voice, Barry Manilow's One Voice.
Yeah,
So hopefully in the next couple of weeks we will be able to release that, and then a large portion of that will go to um,
yeah,
charity, obviously to an HIV charity. I think, we're hoping for the Sussex Beacon.
yeah,
You just have to set all, when you're doing it for a charity, of course, you have to set that all up in emotion financially. So it takes a bit of.
yeah. Oh,
So,
well, I shall look forward to supporting that.
oh, thank you very much.
I loved finding out a bit about you when I was sort of researching before this interview. And I know you're a Welsh lass and you grew up in Neath, didn't you?
I did. I was actually physically born in London, believe it or not.
Right.
But my mum was from the Welsh Valleys. My dad was from the Bedford area, and I was born in London, but I grew up. I don't really remember London at all from
Yeah.
my childhood. I grew up in Neath, and that linked me to all the friends that I have with the West Glamorgan Youth Theatre and to the life that I have, really. So
Yeah, because I know Russell wasn't he there? That's how you met, sort of.
yeah, that's how we met. And
Yeah,
and we were very lucky, I think, in West Glamorgan, because at that time they were very proactive with the arts and with drama and music.
yeah,
So I was a little lucky time there when there was money available
yeah,
for our youth theatre. We
yeah.
just had a laugh.
Oh,
Laugh.
well, I mean, I love Neath. I've got
Not laugh.
friends. I love Neath. I've got friends that are living in Neath
You're
and
kidding me.
been to Aberavon Beach
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
Falls and all around there. So
Well,
yeah, I know it fairly well.
down in the Mumbles and the Gower Peninsula, of course, that is
Yes.
beautiful. I
Oh,
mean,
isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
just it's just a nice little town, but
Yeah.
there are areas that are surrounding which are stunningly beautiful. So
Yeah.
I
So,
had I grew up, I enjoyed I had a lovely childhood in Wales, really. So
yeah.
I feel very Welsh,
Yeah.
um, but I also do love London.
Yes.
Is
Who
where
do
I.
you support in the football then when it comes to the things
Oh,
like
now
that?
you know you're going to get me, because this is something that is not me. Now, football or rugby, I have to say Arsenal, because my father would never forgive me if I didn't
Oh,
give a word for Arsenal, because he was a big Arsenal
yeah.
supporter.
Yeah.
But the rugby, I'll support Wales, of course I will. But
Yes, of
but I
course.
don't really understand all the rules and all that.
No.
I have friends who are obsessed with it, but I'm not a team sport person like that. I like to watch tennis. I like
Oh,
to watch
tennis.
the more sort of less sort of rough and tumble, and more sort of afternoon tea and champagne.
Sounds very civilized.
Yeah, I like that, really.
So, just to end with, I know that obviously you're a star of TV and theatre
Not really.
productions, but you've also been in films. Now, I know Finding Your Feet.
Oh,
I'm actually due to watch that because I saw the trailer recently, and then I read actually that you played a dancer, didn't you?
I did, and it's small, the whole thing, but it wasn't a small job, when you get that what we are part of the dance company, so I
Yeah,
had quite a few weeks work,
yeah,
probably a month's work in all out of it, because we had to rehearse everything,
yeah,
but I literally, a friend of mine rang me and said, go for this audition, you might be right for it. I turned up at the audition, never in a million years thinking I would get it. And
yeah.
I got back to the recall, and I thought, and I couldn't even tell you the language that I was, oh my, I have got this job. And it was lovely. It was fantastic. And listen, Joanna Lumley, she
Oh,
is as gorgeous as you think she's going to be. And
yeah.
they were all lovely. The whole cast were lovely.
I mean, it was such a well, it is such a cast, isn't it? You've got Celia Imrie,
She's
Mel
gorgeous.
Thornton. I mean, like you say, Joanna Lumley, Timothy Spall. I mean, there's just it looks fantastic. So I
Really
encourage
nice
everybody.
film. It's really nice. And what was lovely for all us sort of jobbing actors that got
Yeah,
the job there, they rehearsed with us all the time, because they had to learn all the dance routines, and then we had to go and do flash mob thing in Trafalgar, in Leicester Square. So we all had a great. It was fun, really fun.
It is a very good
Very
feel.
lucky to
Yeah,
get.
it's a feel good film, isn't it? So I encourage everybody to go and watch it and to spot you in it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I encourage my father to spot me in it. Where am I? But you can spot me.
Oh, so one of my last questions to you then is, would you consider doing any more films? What would be your ideal film and who would you like to work with?
Gosh, bleed neck. As an actress, do you know what? I mean, of course, I consider doing anything. I mean, I don't mind who I work with, and that's the absolute truth. There's obviously dream people out there that you think, what an honour. And I never thought in a million years like somebody like Joanna Lumley or people like that. You just don't know. So really, as any actor will tell you,
Yeah,
what comes up, I'm happy to consider
yeah.
anything because I have I like movies myself or television series or anything like that do have a bit of a message. I do like that sort of thing, but you know, um, I like stories. I'm not a reality sort of. I don't grip myself to reality TV in a big way. So
Yeah.
I love stuff that's got a good story or a good script.
Oh, well, you've certainly been part of that, and obviously the
And now I've got, that's an amazing script. Yeah.
yeah, no, some amazing projects, and I'm sure you'll continue to do so. But um, we thank you for your time
Oh,
today,
you're very welcome, Jenny.
lady, and I look forward to following you and all of your activities. But we will post, obviously, details about how people can get involved, how they can support you,
Sure.
and how they can donate generally to
Yeah.
help charities. So
And all that helps. It's really brilliant if you do that. It's been lovely. Thank
yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jill. You're an absolute star.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
No problems. Take care.
Okay, bye. Bye.